Well, the annual Anzac Day match between Essendon and Collingwood is here. We're going to talk all about it in this video. We're going to preview it. We're going to look at all the numbers, the stats, a few things that might surprise you. And we're going to discuss whether the Bombers can cause an upset. This is an Essendon channel. If you're a Collingwood supporter and you've stumbled across this channel, let us know how much you think you're going to win by. I think it might be a bit closer than what you think, but we'll see. Let's talk about it right now. So the sequence of wins and losses in this match does seem to follow weird little 4-year increments. Essendon has not had the better of Collingwood in recent years, but we've won in 2005, then again in 2009, 4 years later, then again in 2013, 4 years later, then again in 2017, then again in 2021. So going by that, we are due to win in 2025. But in all seriousness, how is this game going to be won, and how can Essendon beat Collingwood, who at the moment are a bit of a juggernaut after playing a poor game against GWS in the first round? They've turned their season around. They're a defensive powerhouse at the moment, and we're going to get into what the Bombers need to do and how they can cause an upset. So the first thing to understand is that the game is changing a little bit. It's less about contested ball. That's still important, of course. You need to win the footy. This is Aussie rules. But most of the scoring, 70% of scoring, comes from moving the footy or denying the opposition moving the footy. The only other score sources are from centre bounces, which doesn't require a whole lot of ball movement, and forward half stoppage work. Everything else is a product of the way that you move the ball. And 5 of the last 6 premiers have been in the top 2 for ball movement. Collingwood, funnily enough, when they won the premiership, were either 5th or 6th for ball movement. They weren't one of the absolute elite teams, although they were very good. But what's interesting about Collingwood is that they were the slowest team to move the ball by foot, but they were the quickest team to move the ball by hand. And this is really the key to beating Collingwood. You need to take it away from being a handball game and turn it into being a kicking game. Collingwood have been exceptional under Craig McRae at moving the ball by hand. They're so quick at doing it. They run and run and run, and that creates opportunity. It creates a bit of chaos, and it creates a bit of uncertainty amongst the opposition backline when the ball gets into the forward 50 for Collingwood. Now, you can't stop them playing the way they want to play it totally. At the end of the day, they're going to attempt to play the game on their terms. But there's a few basic things that you can do to make it more of a kicking game than a handball game. One of them is rushing up on the mark and holding a position on the mark after they take a mark to deny them moving the ball quickly. Yes, they're going to still do it, but if you can force them to go back over the mark and kick it, putting your arms up in the air, in soccer parlance, when the goalkeeper does that, it's called making yourself look big. Right, just those little things. You're probably not going to, get a hand on the ball, but just little things to make Collingwood go back and force them to kick the ball rather than move it forward by hand. Little details like that, silly as they may seem, are the key, or one of the keys, to making it more of a kicking game, which will give the Bombers some sort of chance in this game. If you like this channel, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. It helps the YouTube algorithm when you do so. It will ensure you never miss a video. It doesn't cost any money, and it only takes 1 second to do so. I'd really, really appreciate it if you could do that. Collingwood's defensive profile is extremely good. It's the second best defensive profile, the 4th hardest team in the competition to turn a possession into a score against from the opposition, and they're the hardest team to punish on turnover. So when they do turn the ball over, they're very good at preventing the opposition from taking advantage of that, conceding just 35 points per game in that particular stat, and they rank 5th themselves in scores from turnover. And they do have the second best defence in terms of points conceded. Only GWS is a little bit better. But the Bombers have been no mugs this year. We're on a 3-game winning streak ourselves. In fact, the 2 longest winning streaks in the AFL are now Essendon and Collingwood, and they're meeting in this game. So that's interesting, isn't it? But we are the 4th best team for capitalising off intercepts. So we do make the opposition pay in that regard. And we're the 6th best team for clearance to score ratio, and also 6th in the competition for scores inside 50. And this is actually significant because last year we were very, very poor at this. Last year we were known for getting the ball inside 50 a lot of times, but there was no real system to it. We were just bombing it in there and we couldn't get any result out of it. We're getting the ball inside 50 much less this year. In fact, we're only 14th in the competition for inside 50s, but we're the 6th best at converting it into scores when we get it in there. And this is something that Brad Scott mentioned in the off-season. He said it's an area that we do need to work on. So we are being a more efficient team. One area of concern, and that we're going to have to tighten this up, and it worries me specifically against Collingwood because of the way they move the ball, is that whilst we concede the 7th fewest inside 50s, we allow the 3rd most marks inside 50 from the opposition taking marks. inside 50. So we're not letting teams get it in there all that much, but they're marking it when they get in there. With Collingwood moving the ball so quickly, especially by hand, they will get marks in there if we don't slow them down, which is why I mentioned earlier in the video, it's so important to turn this into a kicking game. So how do the teams rank against each other in some of the key categories? Well, Essendon is the number 1 disposal team in the competition. We are definitely playing a more high possession game this year. Collingwood are ranked number 11th in that. Clearances are pretty even. We average 40 clearances a game. Collingwood average 39. That puts us 5th, them 8th. Inside 50s, as I mentioned earlier, we're 14th with 50 a game. Collingwood are 5th with 55 a game. Goal assists, we are 8th in the competition. Collingwood rank 9th. Contested possessions, we rank 11th in the competition. Collingwood rank a little bit better at 8th. Uncontested possessions, we're number 1 in the competition. Collingwood rank number 10. Marks inside 50, we rank 13th. Collingwood rank 8th. Collingwood take 3 more marks inside 50 per game than we do. We are the second worst team for 1%ers. This is an area we need to work on. Collingwood are the second best team for 1%ers. And tackles inside 50, we are the 4th worst team. We rank 15th and Collingwood are 7th. So the fact that we are the number 1 team for uncontested possessions, you can tell what other teams are going to do. And this is what West Coast tried to do last week. And they had some success in doing it, is not allowing us to play our type of game, not allowing us to possess the ball. You remember the game against Melbourne, we controlled the game. We controlled the flow of the game. We had about 100 more disposals than Melbourne. West Coast, to their credit, were pushed up on us and they shut that part of the game down, so we weren't able to dominate possession like we normally would. You don't have to be blind Freddy to work out that other teams will be going to work on that and they'll be looking to stop us controlling the game through uncontested possessions. I don't know whether being such a dominant uncontested possession team is sustainable in terms of finals football, where the game is obviously much more contested and other teams will try to prevent you getting the ball more. So under the finals-like pressure of an Anzac Day match, it'll be interesting to see if we can control the game, as we have done a number of times this year through our uncontested possession, and whether Collingwood are able to prevent it. Because it's one thing for the opposition to say they want to prevent it, but of course, if you play well enough and disciplined enough, you can play the game on your terms. So it's worth noting, of course, that Essendon actually does have a pretty good recent record against Collingwood. We didn't lose either game last year. Of course, the first game was a draw. And the second game, we won by a couple of goals, but we did have that game well in hand. Collingwood kicked a couple of cheap goals towards the end to make the margin a bit closer than perhaps what it deserved to be. So we do have a pretty good record against the Pies, so that does give us some confidence going into this game. How will the teams line up? Well, this is the Collingwood side from last week. They didn't suffer any injury, so I imagine it'll be much the same team. Any Collingwood supporters watching this, let me know what changes do you think there'll be to the team. Remember last time we played Collingwood in about round 17 or 18 or whenever it was last year, the game that we won reasonably well, we kept Nick Dacos pretty quiet. He didn't really have a great game. And this year he's been kind of slow to start, but boy oh boy did he explode against the Brisbane Lions. He was magnificent against the Brisbane Lions and he was as good as the Nick Dacos that we saw last year. So look, he is going to be anxious to atone on the big stage for a pretty average performance last time we played Essendon, coming off one of the best performances of the year against Brisbane. He had 172 ranking points. And this is their team on paper from last week. Like I said, there were no injuries, so I imagine it'll be much the same. They do have the oldest team in the AFL, and they have, at least on a couple of occasions this year, fielded the oldest side that has ever played in the history of the game. So it will be fascinating to see how that affects them, if at all, as the season goes on. Geelong did win the premiership a couple of years ago with a very old team, but Geelong are a unique case. People have been trying to copy Geelong for years and no one can. I mean, the reality is that most teams in Collingwood's age bracket might be starting to fall away, but they don't show any signs of it at the moment, so they'll be anxious to really do well this year, as it might be sort of their last chance with this group to win a premiership. And of course, both these clubs are on 16 premierships, and I desperately want to get to 17 premierships first. As for the Bombers, this was our side last week. You can replace Sam Draper for Todd Goldstein. Goldstein will be lining up in the ruck, no doubt about that whatsoever. He didn't play in the VFL on the weekend, so no doubt they're holding him for the AFL. The only other minor doubt, and I think he'll be right, I think the club has said that he's okay, is Xavier Dersma, who suffered that nasty knock towards the end of the game. If he's not right to go, that opens up the possibility of Elijah Sartis perhaps coming into the side. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments who you think should come into the side, if anyone, or if there should be any changes, apart from the obvious one where Goldstein will come into the side. The other change possibly is Kyle Langford, who is on the cusp of returning. They said he'd be back possibly for Anzac Day. That was pretty much his return date, but it just depends how conservative they want to be for him. He could come into the... well, obviously, if he's right to go, he'll come into the team. He's obviously a very, very important player for us. Possibly, I reckon, going in for Harrison Jones, who's due for a spell in the twos. He's been a bit out of form. That seems to me to be a logical choice, or a logical swap. You can see the forward line, Isaac Kako, Peter Wright, and Harrison Jones. Nick Martin, Nate Caddy, and Jade Gresham, who was subbed out as well. Archie Roberts, Dylan Shield, who's in magnificent form, and Setterfield, who I think we're all pretty happy with his form over the last couple of matches since he's come back into the side. Backline, Jackson Pryor, who is actually getting better every game, to be fair. He started slowly, and I reckon every game he has improved. Zach Reed, who also is improving every game. Mason Redman on the half-back line, and the full-back line, Jordan Ridley, Ben Mackay, and Andrew McGrath. So the only changes I could possibly see to the side, possibly, apart from Goldstein coming in for Draper, is maybe someone coming in for Dersma if he's not quite over his injury, and Langford coming in if he's fit and ready to go, and someone needs to make way. Like I said, Harrison Jones probably seems like the one to make way, in my opinion. So what is going to be the outcome of this match? Well, let me just say, it is such a special day, isn't it? I've been to every Anzac Day game, so it's about 30. I think I've lost count because there was the COVID years where we didn't go or whatever. So it's about 30. I mean, it's just such a great event. Over 90,000 people every year. Biggest home and away game of the year in terms of the television audience and attendance. It's just a magnificent occasion that these two clubs have created back in 1995 when the first one was held. Did any of you, out of interest, go to the first game in 1995? It was such an unusual day, given that no one was really expecting it to be so big. I remember that was before people bought tickets to... I mean, some people bought tickets, but the whole match wasn't sold out. You had this massive walk-up crowd on the day, and I reckon there would have been 130,000 people attempt to go to the game, and there would have been at least 25 to 30,000 people miss out on that game because the queues were so big. I just remember it was just an extraordinary day. I'll never forget it. I got to the ground early, about 11 o'clock, and I got in, but the lines were just absolutely enormous. And ever since then, it's just been an annual event, and we all love it, and it's just synonymous with both Essendon and Collingwood. But what is going to be the outcome in this game? Who do we think is going to win? Well, I think on current form, I've got to select Collingwood to win the game. Just on form, they're just playing better than Essendon at the moment. They're on top of the ladder with a percentage of 136. They've got pretty much the best defence, or the second best defence in the competition. Teams can't score against them. They're beating good teams. They've just beaten last year's grand finalists, both of them in consecutive weeks, away from home against Sydney, although the Adelaide game was a neutral game in gather round. But nevertheless, they've beaten Sydney and Brisbane, the two grand finalists, in consecutive weeks. But I think it will be a little bit closer than people think. The bookmakers have this as about a 29-point favourite to Collingwood. I don't think 29-point favourite is doing justice to Essendon. We've won 3 in a row, and we've only really had one bad game. That was the game against Adelaide. Every other game, we've been reasonably competitive. So I think Collingwood will win this game by 12 points. There will no doubt be a little bit of clash of styles. Collingwood will try to stop us possessing the ball. We'll probably try to stop them moving the ball by hand. It'll be interesting to see how that transpires in terms of the result. We sort of had a bit of success against them last year. There was a big difference in average age. Obviously, if you take Todd Goldstein out, who otherwise wouldn't have been in the side had Sam Draper not been in there, we're among the second or third youngest side in the AFL. Collingwood are the oldest. So there's a big, big difference in experience. But I don't think that's an excuse. We do have enough experienced players playing. We've got enough players that have played enough senior football now to be competitive, and they've shown they've been competitive against Collingwood in the past. We are due for a win on Anzac Day. We haven't beaten them on Anzac Day for 4 years, and as I said, we do tend to win every 4 years. It'd be nice if it was a little bit more often than that, but that's how the pattern seems to go. There's a number of keys to this game, but from Essendon's point of view, forward pressure is really the key. If we can keep the ball in our forward line and keep our pressure rating up, then it doesn't matter how good the opposition is. Any team that's put under pressure will make errors. They'll obviously do the same to us, but there's not as much of a difference between these two teams as what people think. The Bombers, we're going all right. We're not going too bad. 3 wins and 2 losses. But really, just on current form, I've got to select Collingwood by a couple of goals. I think that's probably the logical selection at this point. So what do you guys think is going to happen? Let me know in the comments. Who would you bring into the side, if anyone, apart from the obvious change for Goldstein and Draper? Would you make any other changes to the team? How do you think the game's going to go? Will you be going to the match? Let me know in the comments all about the match. I try to respond to every comment. I'm closing in on 1,000 subscribers. As I'm writing this, I'm at 995. So I should get to that magical 1,000 mark pretty soon. Thank you for everyone for subscribing. It's been fantastic. And hopefully it's a great day for the Bombers and it's a great game of football. Have a great day, everybody. And as always, go Bombers.